We're live. Hi. This is Andrea Dewey with Crescent. I work at Crescent City Conjure as a tarot card reader. Doing a live video. I'm going to pull some cards. Just in general advice directions for now, but if anybody has a question right at this moment and you're tuning in, you're welcome to ask on this thread and I will look it up. So let's get started. I'm just going to shuffle for a second, also let a chance for people to start tuning in. So just going to do a couple of cards pull and then just apply it to life and life. Good advice for live by guidance. But like I said, I'm happy to answer questions while I do live videos. I haven't done one of these in a minute, so kind of happy to be back. I keep saying I'm going to announce them. Sorry, I did not. But one day I'll let people have notice of what I'm doing before I do it, including myself. So, hello guys, how you doing? Feel free to just message on this thread anything that you want to inquire about. But for the meantime, let's just pull some cards.
Okay, so the best thing that you can do is, or I can do is unpause you. Really, that is for some of the first shoe.
Okay. Well, what I have here is when something that should work doesn't. So let's bring it together and see where it goes. So the first thing we have is Dominion, which is when things fall into balance. So there's something like whenever Dominion is like being in your domain, so it's like being in your home, like you're comfortable, you have stable ground, you feel some footing, there's grounding there, that's Dominion. So that's being coming from a good place. This is also good. It talks about reining in your fears and doubts because it's time to move forward and that can't get in the way. It's talk about the necessity to pull it back, so it's go time. Then you have opposites that work together to make the right things happen. So this is symbolized as fire and water going into the cauldron to make steam. So like fire and water, they have the potential to put each other out if mixed wrong. So if you put too much fire in the water, you evaporate the water. Too much water on the fire, you put out the fire. But you mix it so carefully, you make steam. So opposites have the benefit sometimes of somebody's weakness being somebody else's strength and vice versa. So working together is to both parties' benefit. But what we have here is something that has all this potential to work and it's go time, but somebody's being stubborn, or both parties are being stubborn. Strife. Strife is whenever the parties are too attached to their own opinion to listen. So a lot of friction because no one's giving. So it's just basically all that can happen is you shout your opinion louder and nothing comes out of that typically. So a lot of times when these cards are pulled, I have advice. What that is a lot of times to call attention to the elephant in the room, but without pointing fingers. So instead of you, it will have to be we or I. It's we. So to have this conversation when this is going on, to diffuse it, and this doesn't always work, but it's a chance, it's a good chance, where you go, neither one of us both of us are too attached to our opinions to listen right now. So why don't we take this conversation and put a pin in it and come back to it when we're calm. And when I say come back to it, that doesn't mean to shelf it indefinitely. That means like even put a time limit, like we can talk about this in an hour when we both calm down and we can both come to it in a clear mind, where we can be flexible. But the we there is the thing that disarm both defense mechanisms, because if the person feels like there's any ounce of blame, then that flares up all over again. So saying we are too attached to our opinions to have this conversation right now. Let's talk about it in the morning. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Let's talk about it later. But basically coming back to it whenever we have a better mind frame, because when you're up here and being like, how dare you challenge my opinion's right, or whatever it is, just knowing that you won't budge and that person won't either, there's no point in that. There's not really going to be much problem solving coming out of that. Not typically. And a lot of times, these fights can sometimes come out and show what illustrate the conflict more clearly sometimes, if you can take a minute to see the anger and then step back and then analyze it later. Because that's why we have fights and apologize, then come back to talking. That's basically what it is, except without having to go through the brunt of it to get there. That is just advice coming out of that. So to recap the cards we pulled today, Dominion, when something is in balance and you have some footing, it's time to move forward, so it's time to rein in the fears and doubts so you can, a partnership that are opposites but does work to make the right things happen, provided both people come with their A game. But it isn't working because the opposites that could make something work aren't. They're using their strengths to hit each other over the head with it, metaphorically speaking. So it's being stubborn and not letting go when there could be a potential for a great thing to happen, which I'm sure a lot of artist friends out there, or just people in relationships, friendships, family, anything, have experienced a situation where you could be working together but instead you're not, you're fighting each other. That would be that situation. So let's figure out, besides what I mentioned, some other stuff that could come out of that situation, or how to get out of that situation, or anything else that can tell us about that situation. So the other thing I was saying, for all you that are just turning in, if any of you guys have a question right now while I'm live, I will answer it live with a couple cards pulled. I do this every once in a while when I'm at work. It's been actually a crazy busy day, so I was surprised I was in the mood to do this. But I haven't done a live video in a while. So I'm going to be here at Crescent City Conjure for every Wednesday and Thursday of this month, plus some other days. I'll post my schedule a little later, but I try to typically work Wednesdays and Thursdays consistently, no matter what else my schedule does. So, and also you can message me and I can tell you too. Okay, so this is talking about when we adopt a nihilist mindset. And this is whenever we've kind of had, a lot of times that's coming from feeling like too much has happened. When you get really discouraged, whenever just you feel like, a lot of times, nihilism happens a lot of times when you feel helpless to change your situation. It's why should I care? It's not going to work out anyway. It's like, why even try? It's like, I don't care. And the reason why those things are said usually is to protect yourself from the potential hurt of caring and it not working out. And also when you've just like, you're done, you had enough, and it's hard to try again, it's hard to find that fire to get you back going. And in this particular story, it talks about avoidance being the problem here, and the thing that's getting in the way. So if this is the attitude someone's adopted, like, it's just not going to work, why even try? Combination with debauch, which is, I don't know if you guys can see, yep, this is the Seven of Cups, and you can see how muddy the water is. What that means is, it's like avoidance through escapism. So it can be overworking, over drinking, oversleeping, over drugging, over eating, over Netflixing, all of the vices. It could be any of those vices, or simply put, procrastination. Something needs to be done, or something needs to be handled, and it's put on a shelf instead of being dealt with. And the reason why this fountain is illustrated as a muddy fountain is what happens to a fountain when you neglect it. It gets dirty, it gets muggy, it gets muddy, it gets gross. And it'll still have to be cleaned up in the end. It's just how far do you want to let it go before you have to clean it up. When you get this card, it's time to deal with it. So this attitude of like, it's not going to work out, put it over there, why even try, combined with an avoidance is really bad combination, because that can go on indefinitely. And when you pull these cards, it's requiring you to stop doing that. So the attitude you need to take a look at the fear that's driving the attitude to say, I'm not going to invest because it's all for nothing. Why is that there? It's probably because of whatever you're avoiding. The botch, where the fountain gets all muddy. Dealing with this allows you to have, this is the Knight of Wands, and what he is the second, third, 50th wind, whatever wind you're on. This is ready to get back on your horse and ride again. This is somebody that gets the fire back, feeling inspired, feeling ready to go. So cleaning up that fountain allows you to feel like, I can do this, right? I can come out of this. I can come out of this ahead. I can move forward. So that's actually the gunk that's holding you back and keeping you in the place where nothing can happen because you're afraid to let anything happen. So that's Brad. Just tell me what you want to read about, and I'll totally what your question is, and I'll pull some cards for you for sure. Then this card is my favorite card, and if you ever get a reading from me, no matter how many times you get a reading from me, I will always tell you what this card means. I love the story. So what this card is, it is so busy in the shop today. This is moving from hardship to the other side, but what it offers you is no regrets. This is the mastery of self-knowledge, meaning, I'll tell you her story, her little metaphorical story. She used to walk in darkness, and her colors were dark and drab, and her cat was a panther. As she began to grow and change, her colors brightened into like oranges and reds and glowing, and her cat changed from a panther to a leopard. As she began to grow again and her colors got even brighter, she kept her leopard from changing into a lion because the dark spots reminded her of how far she'd had to come to be who she is today. So this is not just when you overcome, there's a tendency sometimes to be like, when you get to the other side of hardship, being like, why did it take me so long? Why did I have to learn a lesson that way? Why couldn't I just done this, or why couldn't I just done that? Or just like really having like showered with regrets. This says no regrets, because what this is talking about is basically all those things shaped who you are. You've been tempered and tested and come out the other side, and because of that, you really know what you're made of. The lessons that you gained by doing it that way are priceless. They are so valuable, and they make up who you are now. And overcoming it means the world. So you sitting on the other side doesn't just mean that like you overcame. It means you created more depth. You dug your well deeper. You are now, you really know who you are. Your mettle has been tested, and you've succeeded. I said this before, and I'll say it again. Sometimes it's when we have found ourselves out of our weakest moment that we find out what our strength is, how strong we really are. So that is what we have here in my little live reading, random reading this. I'll recap. Dominion, feeling in your home, feeling strong, feeling stable, feeling harmonious, like balancing out, feeling good about feeling stable. Then you have time to rein it in and move forward, time to move past your fears and doubts because it's go time. You have here the perfect combination of opposites that have the ability to shape and make what you want to happen. One person's strength is the other person's weakness, and the other person's weakness is the other person's strength. So together, they make the right things happen. But they're like fire and water because they're opposites. They can also put each other out. And with strife, that's exactly what they're doing. Instead of working together with their tools, they're using them to hurt each other. And that usually comes with feeling unheard, being way too attached to our opinions to listen, so both parties will be like that. But it's also, both of us are screaming to be heard. That's basically what, I'll be louder because I need to be heard. That's kind of the mindset. And when that happens, it's the best thing to do is to acknowledge it, put a pause in it, and try to come back to it whenever it doesn't feel so heavy and fight or flighty. Because when you're up against the wall like that, there's nowhere to go. So this potential to work together is being squashed by the fact that egos get involved in clash, which is very common. So that's a lesson in itself, and it's talking about how to overcome that is to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Say, hey, this is actually my advice from it. Yes, stubbornness. Hey, we are way too attached to our opinions to listen to each other right now. I want to have this conversation. Let's just take a step back and talk about it tomorrow and see if we're in a better place to hear each other. That typically, it's not a guarantee, but it also, aw, I'm so glad I'm being helpful for you right now, Johnny. Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate it. I love the work and I love helping. And live video is a way where I can kind of spread out a little bit, and it's not just like promo for me. It's kind of like, hey, is there something that in the cards, in the thing I do that can help somebody? So I'm glad I'm helpful. That's what I want to be. So that's one situation we were talking about, and then the other thing the cards were talking about was futility. The Seven of Swords is whenever we get this block in us out of fear because we're like nihilists. We're like, I'm not going to try because it's just going to fail. And to be honest with you, that's self-fulfilling prophecy right there, because how can it succeed if that's your attitude for real? And usually that is fear-based. And in this particular story, it's talking about something that wants to be avoided. So that's the attitude that is adopted from this, or that's the catalyst for the escapism. So whatever the hurt thing that made that person feel hopeless or helpless in their current situation, to say, why try? And like I said, putting forth the care and the effort means that you could get hurt. And I think we're all afraid of that. So futility is kind of like trying to keep yourself safe by not caring. I think we've all experienced some level of this at some place or somebody we know has. And then debauch is that muddy fountain we were talking about, which is because we're trying to avoid something so much that we will overeat, oversleep, overdrink, overwatch TV, overwork, over whatever your vice is. And it also can be, simply put, procrastination. Just whatever it is that we're just trying to like sweep under the rug and just tuck it away. It's nothing really gets tucked away, by the way, guys. If you have something that needs to be addressed internally, it has a way of fucking up our external life in a way we didn't expect if it goes completely unaddressed. And that's what this is talking about. Like, as you neglect this fountain, it gets muddier and muddier and harder to clean up. So when you pull this card, it's time to work on the thing that you're avoiding. It's so much better than facing it, than the continued patterns and issues that come out of escapism and avoidance. Provided that we take care of that, like turn those lights on the boogeyman that we're scared of. We have the Knight of Wands. What that is getting like our wind back, like feeling like our fire in our belly. We feel inspired, ready to move forward, ready to go, ready to lead even. This is like feeling like you are renewed. It's like, I said before, your first, second, 30th, 50th, 100th wind that you get when you feel like I can get back up on that horse and ride again. That is from clearing that residue that holds us to that place where there's no movement. So once we get rid of that, then we have movement. And then this is learning from that experience and being safely on the other side and being better because we now know ourselves having to overcome something rather than live with it. So now we really know what we're made of. So this is my favorite card because, like I said, it leaves room for no regrets. And I imagine if we're procrastinating and not dealing with something and we get to the other side having resolved it, one of the things little naysayers in our mind would be like, see, you could have handled this so long ago, right? Whatever negative inner monologue we want to tell ourselves, the Queen of Wands forgives that. It forgives that in the fact that everything you did in the way that it happened taught you a better lesson now that you've overcame it. So that would be her message, and I love that message. From somebody that has to deal with a lot of hardships and learning things the hard way in her past, I could really appreciate the Queen of Wands. Okay, so does anybody have any questions, or should I just do another 4-card pull on life? Johnny, you're so welcome. I'm so glad that I'm able to help you. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you all for tuning in. There's quite a few of you today. Let me see if anybody had any questions. Oh, I see what happened, Johnny. Well, I am so happy. I'm so happy that I can help you. All right, let's see. Anybody just type in 4-card pool, please? Or just another random? Okay, I'll do that. All right.
He's like a shareholder in Huda, they keep treats just for him. All right,
Okay. So the story that the 4-card pool just told me is the Knight of Discs. The Knight of Discs is the harvester. Okay? So he's taken a minute to look at his field to see everything that he has grown before he reaps the benefits, or it's like the fruits of his labor. He's taken a minute to be appreciative before he harvests it. So sorry, I got a little tongue tied there. Harvests it. So that meaning the ability to be able to see the fruits of your labor. Whatever you put forth, the energy you get out. So this is actually having the ability to see what you nurture grow. So that's a very good card. Okay. And at that moment, this is talking about. This is the Princess of Wands. Is her thing is the mastery of spontaneous liberation. What that means is when the unburdening happens, the freedom feeling as you ascend up, like the lighter feeling. So I say this before when I read cards, the naked figures in the deck usually talk about somebody feeling comfortable in their own skin, like really coming into their own, less likely to apologize or edit themselves, or be too apologetic about who they are. It's like really just really coming into yourself and feeling yourself in a way where you're at peace with who you are. So this is talking about letting go and moving forward, feeling lighter. Unburdening is that weight that you have, just letting it go. Okay? But it's crossed with a fear that really, really needs to be let go. This is probably the thing that would hold you back. And this is the Ten of Swords, which is ruin. Ruin is the fear that at any minute, the thing that you built is going to fall apart or be destroyed or be rubble. Okay? So this would be just afraid at any minute the ball's going to drop. Right? Ruination sucks. So it's, you understand the fear there, but that would be the thing that would be holding our person from really finding themselves and feeling that freedom and unburdening is the attachment to that fear. Now, the death card, which silly that it's not, of course not death, and I know a lot of you know that, but if you don't feel bad, but I'll explain it to you. It means drastic change. So it means cutting away all the things that tie you to the wrong things in order to start over or start anew, but it's drastic change. It's not like, from now on this goes over here. That's not what we're talking about. This is talking about like really cutting ties, cutting away the baggage, cutting away the wrong things, cutting away possibly a way of life in order to start over again. So that would probably be, if we're talking about the ability to grow what you want to see, but afraid of losing what you have holding you back, that might be cutting away either the attachment or possibly like just the fear itself, or building something else. It could be a lot of different things. We would need more cards to know what drastic change is talking about exactly, but it would be talking about reevaluating your life and see where the things are that burden you, that tie you to the things that tie you to the nothing, and actively, and it's very action based. You have to like follow through. You can't just be like, yeah, that's nice. Think about something else. This is talking about actually being involved in the process of change, actively cutting people out that don't serve you except to bring you down. This would be cutting out like lifestyle habits that don't work. This would be cutting out anything that ties you to being less free in this particular reading. So let's pull 4 more cards, shall we? What's this guy? Just some more cards that were sitting on the sideline. Weird. Okay. Once again, I'm saying if anybody has any particular question, and by the way, Johnny, we already talked about the other stuff. You don't have to feel like that's necessarily pertaining to your situation. Like I said, this is just pulling cards to see guidance and advice about life's issues. And just so everybody knows, the way that I read cards, everybody reads a little different. And the way that I read cards is typically like problem solving, like what's happened up until now, what's going on, and what's about to happen. Nothing, I really stay away from faded stuff for the most part. Every now and then you'll find out something that like seems like something that happens on its own, but for the most part, my readings talk about action that what your choices amount to. So like what you put forth, and it's having more informed decision making because you can see what everybody else involved in the decision is thinking, what your part of it is, and the parts that you can't see, and where it goes. Okay, we do have a question. Let's see. Okay, I have a question. I've been on the fence about stop drinking for good. What do your cards have to say about when I'm going to be done for sure? Should I suck it up and go to AA? Which I have been through before more than once. Or should I try to do it on my own? I have limited success, because I have limited success at. Okay, that is a good question. Everybody's different. AA works for some, and God bless the program for being there, and other avenues work for others. I am big advocate of reaching out for help outside yourself in general. So, like, I definitely do this for my own self, and I'm very honest. I talk about this on other videos that I have and stuff. I'm a big advocate of therapy. There are programs that make therapy more affordable as well. So a lot of times I hear like it's not affordable. Well, I do go, and I have a program that helps me get it affordably. It's about research a lot of times, and also remember that when you do go to therapy, not every therapist, it's like dating, not everybody that you go to is the right person for you. So don't be discouraged if the first person isn't it. It's about what works. That's one thing I do. I have a couple other things in holistic healing. It is a journey no matter what to find out what works. I guess what I'm trying to say is just because you found something that hasn't worked for you, don't give up hope. You know, there's more avenues out there. Just because this one doesn't work or those two doesn't work doesn't mean that you should be discouraged from trying. And that's just advice. That's not the cards. I recently made 4 months no drinking, and it's busy in the shop today. My situation's a little different. I quit drinking because I have some liver health issues that I'm gonna get treated, and in order to do that, I had to make a commitment. Now, technically, I could still, if I wanted to, drink now because all my lab work and stuff is done. I'm gonna follow through. It does feel better than the other way, and regardless of where everybody's situation is different, it did play a little bit too much gravity. It did have a little bit too much gravity in my life, and it really definitely skews your reality in ways that you don't notice till you give it up away. But it is a struggle, and the struggle is real depending on who you are. Okay. I've been clean from my previous rehab. The liquor still got a hold of me. Yeah. I respect the program, but have bad luck quitting liquor and fighting hard. But I can't go more than a week. Huh. Robin, I almost feel like we should have our own line. I will read for this, but it's not going to be able to tell me exactly, like, you should try AA again. It's tell you like what you're going through, and it definitely will tell you problem solving, but I feel like we would have to have an extensive reading to really be able to get to the meat of it all. But that being said, I'm still going to pull 4 cards on this subject and see what we can find, okay? And I respect the program too. There are a lot of help that it helps a lot of people. I think that everybody's relationship with it is different. So just like how, like I said, with the therapist, that some therapists will work for some and won't work for others, you have to find the right avenue of help that works for you. Okay, so I'm gonna try to fly out, but that's not related. You might just be trying to tell me, make me realize something about my life. Okay, anyway. Okay, so it's an interesting story, but it's not yours. So it's just talking about money and money issues. If you were wondering why I kept shuffling there, I can talk about that in a minute, but I don't think that was for you, Robert. I will say that sometimes whenever we're doing it this way, I call it my cards going rogue, sometimes I try to read for me. So, and I'm not necessarily having money issues, but it is very telling of the things that are going on and the problems that... Okay, anyway. Definitely have money issues. That's a pretty common. Okay, I don't know why, but it keeps wanting to tell me about money, Robin. Let's go off after this and talk a little bit later. Because I invited you to do this, I definitely feel more responsible to give you the answers you're looking for. This might be something that we might need to do extensive stuff. But I'm going to shuffle one more time, but it's money and money and money and money is what it wants to talk about. Which is great because it's summertime and I'd love to know that. So I'm wondering, how much is this for me? Is there any particular triggers, may I ask, Robin, if you don't mind telling me, that happened that might be one of the catalysts to get you back involved when you're doing okay? It doesn't have to, you don't have to answer that if you don't want to, but I was just curious. I hear my neighbor out there. Yeah, I get it a lot, believe me. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, you ready? Okay. It's your past experiences that are holding you to where you are. Defeat is whenever we hold on to something that already has happened that doesn't work and we continue to repeat it. So it's a problem that we didn't solve that we continue to play out externally. So this is not being able to let go of something that is happened already, but it keeps us like stuck in that place, even though it still isn't happening. It's like just being stuck like mentally in that place and you can't let it go, okay? So you carry it around and it affects your life for the worse. So you got futility, which we talked about earlier, which is kind of thinking like, why even try? It's just not going to work. So there's that too, and that's also that's also like also influenced by the stuff that had already happened and not feeling hope. And then we have disappointment. So this is whenever, and I imagine that every time you fall, it reinforces that feeling like nothing's ever going to change. And it kind of every time we fuel that old trauma, it kind of like glues it there even more. So like we live through something and then it affects our lives for the negative, and then anytime we have something that affirms it, it's like giving it extra. Okay, so it kind of embeds in there even more. And disappointment in this particular one is a cup card. And if you can see, the cups are made out of glass, and the cups in the other cards are made out of some sort of metal of some sort because it's more durable. When we get disappointment and when things don't work out the way that we had hoped, we feel fragile, like shatterable, vulnerable, like breakable, like glass. And that's what that feeling is that makes this even worse. So because this pattern has this intensity to it, it looks like that's what you need to solve in order to quit drinking. So it's not just about like the habit, it's about what created it, what's behind it, what's the thing, the driving force underneath it all, and that's where it lies. If you are able to address this, you find stable ground. Does that make sense? Robin, you still there? when we talk about tough issues like that, it sometimes gets a little heavy. So I hope that you feel okay about this. So what it's talking about here is you got to go deep and dig up the old stuff in order for it to stop playing out externally in your life. Hope that was helpful. And if you need more cards, like, yes, I do this for a living, blah, 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 blah. But if we're on here as a thread and there's something that needs to, oh, thanks, Robin. I'm really hopeful that's helpful. You can message me back and forth, and I could tell you like avenues that have helped me. And like I said, everybody's different, but keep trying. You know, it's not just about like it happened this many times, I'm powerless. It's not like that at all. If you can, don't let yourself think like that, because it takes a lifetime to create these problems. So it's not always a easy fix. You know, and be proud of yourself for what you have been able to do, okay? Because that isn't any, like what you've been able to do and give up is a big deal, is a huge deal, and it isn't easy. So the fact that you're that capable
Jason changed all the pictures in the description, right?
shows me that powerless over my emotions. Yeah, I get that, because sometimes when you have those in there, you don't always have control over when they go off. I understand, because I have depression and anxiety, so those are some fun combinations to live with. Like I said, there's certain things I do to manage them. I personally take medications and also go to therapy, and then I have holistic stuff, and I'm glad to share with you some of those things. And like I said, nothing in life is really a quick fix. It's about, you gotta kind of like be proud of yourself every step in the way. And if you get knocked down, that doesn't mean that you backslid and all of this meant nothing. That's one of the problems I have sometimes whenever it's all or nothing kind of things that tell you that if you fall down, that like you have to start over. It's, no, you did that much already. The backslide can have a lesson too. And then get back up. So, I know it's hard to rein it in, especially if there's trauma circulating in that. So the thing the thing that the cards are telling me is that's the source. So you have to be able to get to that source, and that way it'll stop just firing it off at random. You've been through meds and therapy. The alcohol is a result of the real. Go ahead. Is that the real? Well, the thing is that this is not like we're gonna get to the root of the problem, but we won't be able to just solve it in a live chat for sure. The real problem. The alcohol is a result of the real problems. Yeah, I know. But just because you have gone through therapy and meds and they didn't work, I've been through therapy and meds that didn't work. So it took a minute to find the right therapist and the right meds and the right things. And I'm not saying my problem's exactly the same. It's just that's what I can relate to as my own life experience with what I can relate to with you. So that, I know the root, I need help dealing with that problem. That's what I'm saying. After this chat, will you message me on Facebook Messenger so we can go, I can tell you more about different things, and I can go more also into some healing techniques that I've learned. I used to be an apprentice to be a healer way back when, and it works. But I don't want to give you any kind of false promises or hope whenever you're expecting there to be something that will take it away. It's more so like finding the right steps. Okay, talk to you, appreciate it, oops. Well, I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be talking to you, and I really appreciate you sharing, especially because I find that if we're brave enough to express our problems, then we are relatable to other people with the same problems, and sharing means that we don't have to feel so alone. So thank you for being brave enough to ask me that question, and thank you for listening, because it's important to me that I'm able to at least give you some kind of insight or help you through feeling that you're not alone. So, does anybody else have any questions? It's okay if y'all don't. We covered a lot of territory today. You're not the first one I asked about this. Everyone has failed. Thanks for listening. Well, here's the thing. Be careful of thinking that, once again, that you're a hopeless case. Just because you haven't found the right avenues doesn't mean they're not out there. I'm just saying, there are a lot more out there than you think, and I know when we try something and it doesn't work, it leads to a lot of disappointment, and we think that we are unhelpable or impossible to fix. Not the case. Not the case. And just because, and you know what, the next thing you try may not work. The next thing you may not try may not work. But maybe the next thing will, and it's important that you're willing to keep trying. You know? That is, for one, character defining, because you want help and you want to be different and you're willing to try and put in the work is much better than accepting that things will never change and feeling like you are hopeless. Exactly. The next thing they said is, I missed the beginning. Do you people ask questions? Yes. And hey, Jessica, you're allowed to ask questions. We just talked to Robin, who was really sweet and brave enough to share. And I'm doing just a 4-card draw. Like I said, we won't be able to get to the heart of everything, like just like that. I'll be able to deliver some insight in a 4-card draw. I may not be able to solve everything in a live chat, but I am here to help, give some advice or some guidance while we're doing this. You know, I always think these things are going to last like 10 minutes, and then I realize they're like 40 minutes later, but I'm happy for that. Okay, talk to you. Oh, okay. Well, also, like I said, whatever avenues I have, I'm willing to share. Might be right, might be wrong, but it's still more information to keep going and keep trying. So we'll message each other after this. Just message me a messenger, and I will send you all the information that I have. Okay? Does anybody else have any questions? If not, I'll do like 4 more cards, and then we can talk about it for a bit, and I will get back to work, which is more of this. I actually had a really busy morning, so it slowed down, so I figured it'd be good to talk to everybody. Which I am really grateful for all of you tuning in. It's a lot, and I'm happy that there are so many people here. Hold on 1 second. I knew it was you. Hey, Nico. I could hear your voice. It's my neighbor who just came in to shop here. So I could tell by her voice that was my friend and neighbor. It's a small world here in New Orleans, for sure. Small town pretending to be a city. It really works for me. Okay, so since nobody tuned in with a question, I'm just going to pull a 4-card draw. I'm going to try so hard next time to announce when I'm doing a live video, so maybe you guys could like feel not ambushed by my live thing, or at least know what time it's happening. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. One day soon, I'll be down to meet you. I would love that. I would love that. Or maybe I can come up with Nikki's sometime, Jessica, and meet you. She speaks so lovingly about you, and you're kind of amazing balls. From everything I understand, I already feel like I know you because she talks about you so much. Yay. Okay, let's do this. Ready? I think everything happens for a reason. Well, I definitely do feel like things come together in a special way. You know what? Let's put a pin in that. Let's get to the reading because once again, you randomly clicked on this. I'm really glad I could help you. I'm really glad that I could help you with your time, like in your life and everything else. I really take pride in caring with what I do and caring about people. So it does mean a lot to me that I can give guidance through this. Okay. Wow, I really wanted to tell me about that card. This is like the second time I pulled it. Okay, so what if you're doing everything right and you still end up in a rut, right? So here is having more than what you need and then feeling successful, and then that wraps up and you find yourself in a rut. That's what these cards are about. So a rut is when you, especially after coming from a place where you felt successful before, can be a really hard place to dwell in. This is whenever you settle or feel unchallenged or don't feel like growth is happening and you just feel like spinning your wheels and things same old. But worse is feeling trapped. Like you feel like it's like something you can't overcome or get out of. Like this is just, you just got to accept it because this is your life now, right? So this is like abundance. This is having more than what you need. Your cup runneth over. This is success. This is feeling good, taking pride in your work because you're successful. Things grow and change and your work means something. And then this is completion that comes to an end. And then you find yourself in a rut, spinning your wheels. So I'm not going to leave y'all there. Let's pull some more cards on that subject because that's not a closing 4-card pull. You're in a rut, goodbye. No, I don't want to do that. So, and I mean, it is what it is. It's a lot of times when we feel like growth has stopped. What's that one? Okay. See, I call those secret Santas when they fall out, and I talk about them at the end. Sometimes they are just cards that are falling, but sometimes they offer some wisdom. Okay. So virtue is integrity, okay? So integrity is we know what integrity is, but your actions and your word meet the core of you and how you feel. So this is having the courage to have that in a world that doesn't necessarily pride that. That's me, not the card saying that. That's what I feel sometimes. I try my best. That's actually my mantra, is integrity is key. And I try to do my best to live by it. But this card is talking about the necessity to live by it, right? And once again, the fear that's locking us down into this rut is ruin, fear of losing what we have built already. So the reason that we're settling for something that's not challenging and stuff is the fear of losing everything or being wrong about our path. It's a lot of stuff layered in there with the ruination. It could just be also your thoughts up until now and how you thought life should be. Letting go of that is also ruination. So it's being afraid to lose what you have that keeps you from moving forward on this one. So we have staying in integrity. We have what creates the rut that we have over here, which is ruin, being afraid of losing what we have, losing our security, losing anything that like keeps us there. And so we build a safe little prison to keep everything safe, right? And that's what is the fuel to this spinning wheels, okay? Hey girl, hey. Hey. How you doing, baby? Mwah. Hey, Kelly Bell. Okay. How'd you also pick up on Magical's last name? Kelly Bell is a good friend from high school. We don't get to see each other ever, for all we never, but we keep up with each other here. But her last name went from Kelly Bell to Kelly Bell Frost. I don't know how many fairy names you're collecting, but it's pretty good. Aw, thank you, Kelly Bell. Okay, so we have over here virtue, sticking by what we believe in and trying to move forward through that. But the reason why we're not listening to what we feel inside is because we're afraid of losing our idealism and what we built, right? Swiftness. What this is you have an issue, you have an issue, you have the weight of the issue, the weight of the issue, you have the weight of the issue, all of a sudden, poof, the clouds part for a second. And for whatever the reason, the issue isn't as heavy as it normally is. And at that moment, that's when opportunity for something else happens, right? This is the ticket out of this rut. So this is like the problem, and all of a sudden things are lighter for just a second. And at that moment, that's when the branch to pull you out the quicksand arrives. Reason why this is called swiftness is it is important that you act in a timely fashion so that doesn't pass you by. You don't want to drag your heels at this opportunity because if you let it pass you by, you fall back into the issue for longer. So this is the ticket out. So definitely don't just impulsively jump at anything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when the opportunity comes to you and it seems like a real opportunity and you feel it, take it. Don't let your fears get in the way of that decision because that is your ticket out of that rut, okay? And then we have the Death card, which requires action, which means cutting away the old to move to the next phase, right? So this would be cutting away everything that ties you to the wrong thing so you can move forward. So drastic change, this would be like, it would be like a rearranging of like things to a drastic difference, but it would probably be en route of that opportunity that you're given. So the opportunity might be something that makes you switch jobs, or makes you move to a different location, or makes you like